It's time to break down some football.
We got to get our mind right. Touchdown, win.
From the perspective of guys who played in the NFL.
Touchdown!
And a guy who had one really great sack in high school.
Oh, you're so weak. You're a waste of my time.
Greg Camarillo and Marcus McNeil are the pros, and Skraby is the Joe.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Two Pros and a Joe starts right now.
I can't believe it, but we're back for episode number 2 of No Pros and Two Joes. We got a better response than I thought, Thomas. I'm very happy for what we did the other week, so we're back. We're doing it again, and we got breaking news this morning. It's Sunday morning, and so we decided we have to do a podcast on the breaking news.
Yeah, and this isn't just any of your average news. This is huge news for football players, football fans.
Football anything.
Yeah.
Football history. I mean, this is big enough that this is going to change the history of the game, and I'm not just saying that.
It could if you stats-wise, records-wise.
We have all of that to talk about here on Two Pros and a Joe is the actual name of the podcast. But today it's just Skraby, myself, and I guess Odd Thomas, but he's not really Odd Thomas on this show. He's just Thomas Andrews. He's our producer of the podcast. Big announcement. We are scheduled, Greg Camarillo, Marcus McNeil, and I are scheduled to be talking with Jason Campbell on April 6th. So
wow.
If all goes to plan, that's what we're going to do. Marcus was able to set that one up. I just got word yesterday about that one. And I think Marcus either played with Jason Campbell because he went to Auburn as well, or they just know each other through the Auburn connection. So I have to do a little bit of research there, but we are scheduled to have former quarterback in the NFL, Jason Campbell, on the program.
That's cool.
Yeah. I guess this
cool.
isn't a program. It's a podcast. I need to get into my language.
Take the radio hat off.
Yeah, take my radio hat on, put my podcast hat on. But that is cool. I'm looking forward to that. Jason Campbell started for a long time for the Redskins.
Took the Redskins to the playoffs in the late 2000s with, I think, Jim Zorn?
Jim Zorn, wow. Who was the guy who was from Florida and they hated him? Was that Jim Zorn? Was that the guy that they had like a website? He came from Florida to the Washington Redskins and they all hated him, and so they tried to get him out of there.
No, I don't think it was Zorn.
All right, well, anyway, we can figure that out from now until April 6th. I just want to say that I think that's pretty cool. So look forward to that. That episode should be out around April 7th or April 8th. But today, we're going to talk about the new regular season schedule that's expected to be passed this coming season, and it's expected to be passed within this week. And it's to add one more regular season game. So now there's going to be 17 games on 18 weekends. So we're going to talk about that and all the ramifications of that. We're also going to talk about a big old NFL draft trade. This came down on Friday, and it was pretty crazy. The Dolphins, 49ers, and Eagles all made some pretty big moves and some pretty telling moves of where they might go in the draft. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, the trade news was wild because first, it was the breaking news. The first thing was the Niners moving up, and everyone's like, wow, okay, the Dolphins, all right, maybe we're happy with where they are. And then they move back up with the Eagles, and we see the Eagles now, okay, what's going on with them now? Because there's still a big question mark as news is coming out as early as yesterday and today that they're not quite sold as Jalen Hurts as their consensus number one now.
What? Is that true?
Yeah.
I did not see that, but I believe you. It's just like, what are the Eagles doing? You just traded Carson Wentz, and now you're not
signed
sold?
Joe Flacco over the weekend to be your backup.
This is stupid. I'm so happy I'm not an Eagles fan because the Eagles are a mess right now. You know what it all points to? Ownership. Ownership is the one screwing all this up because Jeffrey Lurie was saying the whole time that Jalen Hurts is the guy. But now they're saying, according to you, Thomas, that they are not sold on Jalen Hurts. It's so weird to me.
Yeah, it says via the Associated Press, Rob Matty, Eagles don't have a consensus on whether Jalen Hurts is QB number one. This is the Bleacher Report Gridiron.
Okay,
Right
all
here,
right.
as of
all
2
right.
hours ago.
Part of me thinks Bleacher Report Gridiron just puts out rumors because it's an easy thing for them to do and put out content, clickbait. But part of me thinks it's true because the Eagles are so terribly run, and Jeffrey Lurie has to have his hands in everything. So we'll get to all that a little bit later. But if you want to follow us on social media, you can at 2 Pros and a Joe. It's the number 2 Pros and a Joe. You can follow me at Matt Skraby. You could follow Thomas at OddThomas71. You could follow Greg Camarillo at Catch Camarillo and Marcus McNeil at Marcus McNeil73. Wow, I did that all on the top of my head.
Deep breath.
And you can go to our Facebook page, 2 Pros and a Joe. How many more times can I promote something right here?
Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram and Twitter. So please help us out with that. And we are growing slowly but surely, and I appreciate everyone out there for listening and spreading it to their friends.
Yeah, we got some feedback from our friend down in Mexico City.
Yes, I was really appreciative of that. And Greg Camarillo said our first international podcast location is going to be having a cerveza in Mexico City. So I can't wait to be having a water while Greg has a cerveza down there. Or I guess I shouldn't have a water. I'm going to have a
Mexican
Sprite.
soda.
Ooh, I could do that. So we'll get all that together, and we'll see you in Mexico City, everyone, in like a year. So this schedule thing, and I saw this come through my phone earlier today, and it was from Adam Schefter, and he basically said it's expected that the NFL is going to vote in a 17-game regular season schedule, and it will start as soon as this coming 2021 season. And it's all, to me, all of this is not about a level playing field or anything like that. It's all about money. That's all they care about. And we were talking before the podcast, and I was saying to you, I cannot stand it. I understand that people are going to make money and want to make more money, and I have no problem with that. I cannot stand when people change something for the purpose of making more money. 16 games to me was perfect. 17 games brings in a whole different thing. I don't know what you think, Thomas, but are you happier now? Because you're a huge football guy. You will watch football no matter what is going on. Are you happier now you get one more regular season game?
Yeah, it gives me an extra chance to try and get my fantasy teams into playoffs.
See, that's a whole other thing.
You know? No, I'm excited for it. An extra week of football gives me another excuse to sit on the couch for another weekend and not do anything.
I don't personally need another weekend to do that.
I like that they moved the Super Bowl almost to the week before President's Day weekend, so potentially we could have a Monday off as a holiday almost after the Super Bowl.
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, that's one bright spot there. The not having an extra bye week. I mean, if you come to the player side, I mean, that's got to be the only downside because that's an extra week of taxing on the body. Or say you're some of these teams that are some of the cellar dwellers of the NFL. It's another week you have to go out there and put on, at least try and act like you want to be out there and playing and not looking forward to your Cancun vacations.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting question for Greg, Marcus, and Jason Campbell when we talk to them because I want to get their opinions on what they think about it because it's 17 games on 18 weekends. They're, like you said, no extra bye week. It is an extra game check for the players, but I can't imagine that they're just going to see a smaller check, but more of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they already have a contract and they already know what they're getting paid per game. That's how players in the NFL get paid is per game.
Oh.
So, like, if you're making $1 million and you're making, oh God, don't make me do math live on the podcast.
You make a great point. So say you divvy up, you're making $1 million divided by 16 games. You're not just getting an extra game check. You're just getting it divided up between 17 games.
You're making $1 million divided by 16 games. You're making a game check of $62,500 a week. And with 17 games, you're making a check that's $58,823. So it's significantly less. I don't know how this is going to work. This is all very new. It's not new because we knew this was going to happen, but the details of it are new, and I don't know what's going to happen with the players, and so that's why we're going to ask the pros. But I can't see they voted this in. That's the problem. Is the players already ratified the CBA, and so they already have all of this built in. This was going to happen. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen. I just don't understand why the players thought this was a good idea for themselves, because it doesn't, as a fan and as someone who kind of knows a little bit about the contract situation by talking with Greg and Marcus and all that stuff, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I guess you kind of got me at a loss there, because I mean, yeah, you have been around with the guys, and you started to build that relationship with the former players, and you've kind of learned about the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, from a casual fan, from average Joe, you just plucked me off the side of the road and said, "Hey, there's gonna be an extra week in the NFL." Hell yeah, brother!
Yeah.
Like, bring it on,
Brother.
Let's
go, brother.
That's more viewing time for me. This and that. And again, yes, revenue. I can gamble more depending on what you want to do. Sponsorships, this and that. I mean, we just saw DirecTV and this whole new mega TV deal that just passed too, which you might want to get money. Their take on them. And maybe there's going to be some built-in. There's going to be some new clauses in these contracts, in a sense, now that they're adding a game that they're going to have to.
The contracts have to get bigger, right?
Exactly.
I mean, Dak Prescott just is getting paid like $40 million a year now. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. It's around $40 million a year. And so every new quarterback contract breaks the old quarterback contract's record. And if you're getting paid $40 million a year, oh gosh, here we go with the calculator again. If you're getting paid $40 million a year, and that is what you're making per game, then per game for 16 is $2.5 million a game. Wow, that's nice. That's nice. But for 17 games, you're making. It's not that much of a difference. That's a guy making $40 million a year, though. Yeah, so that's 2.5 for 16 and 2.35 for 17. That's it. It's a good. I guess it's a good chunk of change that you're missing, but at the same time, you're not hurting. It's the lower level guys that are hurting. The guys that are only going to be there for maybe in the NFL for 3 years or something like that. But you're right. We are the two Joes. I'm just trying to put different scenarios out there. Do I like this? Of course I like this. This is great. As a fan, this is awesome. I just don't know how it's going to work with the records and how I know that they're going to alternate, you were telling me, between, because usually it's an even split of 10 home games per year with 8 home games during the regular season, 2 home games in the preseason, and now it's going to be 1 year a team gets 10 home games or 11 home games, and then the next year, the other side, the other conference gets it flip-flops so that they all get a chance to get as many home games. But now you're legitimately having, and if we're talking about it from a team perspective, you're legitimately having now a, what's the word I'm looking for? You're having, gosh dang it, why am I forgetting my word? Gosh dang it, who is it? Philip Rivers on this podcast? But you're messing with, I don't know. Talk, Thomas. I'll figure it out. Oh, here's where I was going to go with it. Finally.
Saved it.
Okay, here we go. A team, now that we're having fans back in the stands, is going to have an advantage. They're going to have one extra regular season game. That is an advantage. And so when you're playing at home in the NFL, we saw it last year that some teams played better on the road because there wasn't any fans in the stadiums. We're back to going to football games. And I feel like that's a little bit of a competitive advantage for that team that year. And I know it's going to turn around, but I don't like that because it sometimes NFL seasons are decided with a team. It's decided whether or not they're going to win a Super Bowl in one season, and then the league passes them by. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but one extra week shouldn't change a whole season around, but throwing things around, it will look a little different because, we have seen those weird years where, even just this last year's, where the Browns finished the season beating the Steelers to get into the playoffs, only to go to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe it'll help eliminate things like that, playing an NFC opponent if you're obviously an AFC, NFC opponent at the end of the year, and a home advantage for one and obviously a disadvantage for the other. So we shouldn't have some of those weird playoff implications in that. But it may end up leading to some pretty fun matchups that we don't get to see very often with, AFC versus NFC.
True.
Some of the intriguing matchups that we miss out on, each year, we only get maybe once every 8 years where a team, how often we've seen, Tampa Bay go up to Buffalo, just random like that. I'm just saying, you hardly see these, team matchups and go to certain places.
Yeah. No, I get that. And that's cool. And I should also say that they're keeping the expanded playoffs. I think we all love the expanded playoffs. Super Wild Card Weekend, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was
get rid of
great.
the Nickelodeon one.
What you got against the Nickelodeon one?
I just couldn't find it. If you don't have real cable, I couldn't get it.
Oh my God! So that's why you're mad, because you couldn't find it. Well, trust me, I watched it for maybe 10 minutes. It was great for that 10 minutes. I would not be able to watch a full game on the Nickelodeon channel, but the Wild Card Weekend was good. So that's what's going to happen with the NFL regular season schedule. So keep an eye on that for that this week, because they're supposed to make a decision.
Kind of just circling back though, like you said about. Some like you're saying, everyone voted on this, but it's funny. Well, not funny, but it is interesting now. We're seeing a lot of players coming out and being very upset with the 17th game added. And big games like Darius Butler, Alvin Kamara, guys coming out saying this is the dumb as hell thing, or this shit is stupid. But like you said, it was voted on already by these players. So you can't really get upset now. You can kind of maybe feel misled or duped in a way.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara said, "Shit, dumb as hell."
So
but here, I remember when we were working on the show on Gwen and Chris together, that the talk of the extra game and the CBA and all that was being voted, but. And there was also talk of who was actually representing the players, because it was Aaron Rodgers representing the players, and honestly, Aaron Rodgers is a great spokesperson and probably a good representative for the players, but there was no representation from the average NFL player, which really is who's going to be hurt most in this whole thing. As we just did the math, Dak Prescott's losing $15,000 a game check, and in the scheme of things, it's not that much. But
your
$1 million guy
yeah.
was losing a ton. He was losing almost $8,000 a game check, which is a lot for those guys.
For an extra week of punishment on a body.
And then again, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to make it to the end of the CBA, I don't think. He's not going to make it to 230.
He hardly makes it to the end of the season.
Maybe he's gonna have to get stretchered off, and then he's gonna come back like he did that one game.
Paul Pierce moment.
His Paul Pierce moment. But there's a lot of things to pay attention to that I didn't even think about when I first heard about this regular season schedule being put to 17 games. But you're right. Players can't complain. They accepted it. But I guess it's like if you're voting for president and you vote for your person and it doesn't get voted in, you kind of just gotta. I mean, maybe Alvin Kamara voted no on the whole thing, and he got outvoted. So
very true.
You kind of just got to take it. Voting's voting. That's what democracy is all about, baby.
But weird though. Okay, 17 games now. Now we look at all the crazy stuff like single season records, and as far of
the single season records. And no, that's all true. It's like baseball though. I don't know. I mean, baseball has that issue with how are we going to look at the 60-game season from the COVID year because it severely shortened people's chances to catch some of those Hall of Famers and all that.
But I think the only thing when it came to shortened season people were really looking at was ERA records and batting average records.
What about home run?
Well, okay, someone wasn't going to go out there and hit 74 home runs in 60 games.
No, but I'm talking records in a whole. Like Manny Machado, we're in San Diego, so that's why we're talking about Padres third baseman Manny Machado. I'm just throwing it out there. He's had 30 home runs in 8 years of his career, but last year he only had
average-wise?
Yeah. Last year he only had maybe 18 home runs, and so at the end of his career, when he's third behind whoever is third in home runs, are we going to be like, well, he could have hit 30 home runs in that shortened year? It's going to be the same with the NFL. I know that they had 14 games in 1978. That was the last time they changed everything. Mm-hmm. And Jerry Rice...
he set the single-season touchdown record mark with, 14?
With 14 games, yes.
And Randy Moss broke it with 16.
With 16.
He hit 23.
Yes, he did. And so we don't look at that any different. But I do think we'll look at it different because it's a different era, and we all are experts. So
it is gonna make guys' numbers go up in the long run now going forward. Because you look at now an extra game, the way numbers going up in games, you see guys go for 250 to almost 300 yards easily in a game.
Yeah.
So yardage numbers, I mean, we could start seeing more 5,000-yard passers. So watch out, Drew Brees.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. If I have we'll always the newer people are always going to replace the older people. But for me and you, we will always probably be you'll be telling your son, Joe Smith. Yeah, sure, he's a great quarterback. Or Justin Herbert, he's a great quarterback. But back in my day, we had Drew Brees. And he only threw 16. He only played 16 games.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. Are we going to start seeing asterisk getting a lot of stuff, win records get broken, wow, he was able to do this, but 17-game seasons? Or is it just going to be, we're just going to have to remember on this date, starting in the 2021 to 2022 year, but season, we went to 17 games.
Yeah,
now.
we're going to have to. There's going to have to. I mean, and the guys who set the record in the 16-game season, then I think they should be separate from the new guys. They should start a whole new era of records. I mean, we'll always have Drew Brees as the what he leads everything passing wise,
except for touchdowns.
Why is that Tom Brady?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Tommy Two Shoes. I don't know why I call him Tommy Two Shoes.
But I mean, look at the rushing record, Eric Dickerson's record of 2,100 yards. I mean, Derrick Henry with one extra game last year would have destroyed.
Good point.
I mean,
point.
We're just gonna have to start looking for things like that now.
Good point. I guess you could always extrapolate and add a 17th game to Eric Dickerson to see what he would have done, but we never know because he didn't actually do it. So there are a ton of weird nuances that go into this whole new 17-game season, and I'm sure that on my drive home after doing this, I'm going to think of another 5 that we didn't talk about because it's just all so new.
Oh, man, I should have brought that up.
Yeah, I should have brought that up. But I just, real quick, before we move on to the big NFL draft trade, I used to like Mike Florio. I did. But he runs at Pro Football Talk on Twitter, but he runs it like it's his personal account. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, you are running a brand. Your brand of Pro Football Talk is there to spread the news that you guys are generating. Not for you to come on and anyway, so I saw a tweet earlier from Pro Football Talk, and I was like, I might mute this account because it was from Florio, and you know that. And he was like, don't act all surprised that this 17th game thing is added. If you're a real fan, you would have known.
It's just tough because it comes from a verified account, and it's the account photo is the image.
Pro Football Talk.
Yeah, and so it's... But at the same time, when you got to look at, who's
50-year-old
Mike Florio,
who used to be a lawyer, who ended up as a blogger. I have nothing wrong with the way Mike Florio came about his career and everything, but it's Mike Florio, stop acting like you're so much smarter than us. We don't care. And then
put your face in the picture.
He also kind of rubbed me the wrong way when he was blasting the NFL for COVID rules and stuff like that. And it's dude, you make money off of the NFL. Why are you trying to kill the NFL? It's really strange, but I don't know. Mike Florio. I don't know what to say about him anymore. All right, let's move on to the big old NFL draft day trade. We had 3 teams making trades on Friday, which was surprising. I did not expect for this to come down. The Dolphins, the Niners, and the Eagles. But let's start with who everybody is calling the biggest winner in this whole thing. And CBS Sports gave them an A+ on their draft or on their trade. 49ers got an A-, and then the Eagles got a B+. So the Dolphins, they made the first trade with the 49ers, and it was the Miami Dolphins trading their number 3 overall pick to the 49ers for the 49ers number 12 overall pick, the 49ers 2022 first-round pick, the 49ers 2022 third-round pick, and then the 49ers 2023 first-round pick. I've never understood how you can put a value on a pick, but I don't think moving up 9 spots is worth 2 first-round picks. Anyway, it always happens that way. So that's what happened with that trade. And then, because Miami moved back to 12, they traded with the Philadelphia Eagles. So they traded the 12 pick and a 4th-round pick and a 2022 first-round pick to move up 6 spots for the Eagles' 6th overall pick and a 5th-round pick, which is number 156 in the draft. So Dolphins making tons of moves. Dolphins have picks at the wazoo. Many different ways to think about this. People say by them trading their number 3 pick away, they're not worried. They're putting their trust in Tua.
Yep.
And then when they traded back to number 6, that keeps them in the mix for a playmaker, because if they're going to draft a quarterback, which they shouldn't and they won't, it's not going to happen after pick 3, because all the good quarterbacks are going to be taken in the first 5 picks probably. So what do you think about the deal? What do you think about the deal with the 49ers, Thomas? From the perspective of the Dolphins.
From the perspective of the Dolphins, they're desperate to get up and get a quarterback that they think they want, or they're trying to get up into a position where they can use assets they just acquired to still potentially maybe make a run at Deshaun Watson, who there's still some.
By the way, I mean, I'm not calling the guy innocent or guilty. There's a lot going on.
I know,
there.
so that's the big. There's question marks there. So there's two sides of this. Yes, maybe Kyle Shanahan wants to go after maybe a more mobility guy, where he maybe thinks he can, get him trained in this offense in a way, and maybe sacrifice a little accuracy with some of these pocket passers that he's had, because he's starting to see a trend in the NFL. They just went and spent money on the interior and the left side of their offensive line for the next at least handful of years to keep with Alex Mack and Trent Williams. So pieces are there on offense. They've got the pieces on offense where they've got young guys, Kendrick Bourne, Deebo.
No, Kendrick Bourne's a Patriot now. He's a Patriot now.
Who's the Deebo Samuel?
They have Brandon Ayuk.
That's the one I'm thinking. But
yeah,
some young,
Deebo's never healthy though.
But young guys that they don't have to pay a lot right now. A lot of their top money is all invested in the offensive line and George Kittle. And if they can somehow flip Garoppolo, that's $25 million they don't have to pay on this guy. And if they can bring in a young quarterback, maybe Zach Wilson from BYU, San Francisco's got a history with good BYU quarterback, even though they didn't draft him.
No.
They brought him in.
No, but yeah, Steve Young, descendant of Brigham Young, who I just recently listened to a podcast about Brigham Young. Apparently not a good guy. Not a good guy. That's all I got to say about that.
But it does look like they are in the market for a quarterback.
Yes, yeah.
You don't move up to a third-round pick, or for the third overall pick to get. I mean, I just don't hear any other reports out of this draft that there's anybody else besides. This is supposed to be the quarterback-rich draft.
It is. It is a quarterback-rich draft. From the 49ers' perspective, at first, when I see things, I didn't like it. I did not like giving away 2 first-round picks. I did not like it at all. But in the end, I think I'll always stand with John Lynch. He's my guy, so I got to stand with him. But he's making decisions for the future. And what they are basically doing, I think, is that, like you said, they're going to take a quarterback in this draft. So now the guys are in the mock drafting is Trevor Lawrence, number 1, Zach Wilson, number 2 to the Jets. Number 3 will be Justin Fields to the 49ers, which I do like that. Justin Fields looks like a good quarterback. But the Broncos taking Trey Lance at number 4. Please, if I'm the 49ers, please stay away from Trey Lance. I cannot... Another North Dakota State Bison. I can't have them on my team. Carson Wentz is the other one. So
Easton Stick is the other one too.
There's another guy.
Yeah, he plays he was the third stringer on
Easton
the Chargers.
Stick isn't that the name of a baseball bat? Help! But what I think is going on here is that the Niners are going to draft a quarterback, and then they have Jimmy G over the next 2 years at $25 million a year. So Justin Fields comes in. He signs his rookie deal, which is a 4-year deal that's capped. So they're basically making no money.
And I think he'll have a 5th-year option added
He'll have
on
a
that,
5th-year option.
He's a first-round pick.
Yes, and that is when they get paid the big money. That's when you have to make like the $25 million choice on whether or not you want to bring the guy back for the 5th year. And that's why the Bears said, sorry, I'm good on Mitchell Trubisky. He's now in Buffalo. But... So they're going to draft Justin Fields, I think, the 49ers are. They're going to have Jimmy G for this 2021 season at $25 million. Then they're going to have to trade Jimmy G, and they're going to have to figure out how to not get killed in the trade, because they've lost all leverage on trading him, because everybody knows what they're doing now.
I feel like if they can get a second or a high third back for him, something similar to what they traded for him, I mean, I think that's a win at this point.
What do you think as a resident Patriots fan? What do you think about the news that the Patriots want him back? Why? And number 1, why would they want him back? And number 2, do you think it's going to happen?
Number 1, Bill drafted him and had a lot of confidence in him, and he's won for them when he had to start. 2, I think they would have him back at the right price. I'm
not $25 million a year.
I think if they got him back in a trade, they would eat the money that he had, and I think somehow they would rework it. But I think he would kill to come back. I think he would love to come back and just try and pave out his own future there. Because I'm just still not sold on Cam Newton. The guy showed he can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field with accuracy. And yes, they brought in all these tight ends and Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar. I'm just not sold yet that they're sold on Cam Newton as their starter.
Yeah, I don't think they are either. I personally don't think that. I think Cam Newton is the 2021 quarterback for the Patriots.
I think it's just the best they had. I mean, look at the market of guys. Who else are you going to have be your
well, you
week
could be
one
the
starter?
Bears, and you can be Andy Dalton as your starter, which we didn't talk about that, but that's brutal for Bears fans. They were in the mix for Russell Wilson and trading for him, and then all of a sudden he just says the trade doesn't go down, and he's like, so the trade doesn't go down, and now they're stuck with the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton.
Did you see the social media post the Bears put out too? And it was like him.
Oh yeah,
doing
it was
boxing
him.
Workout.
Yeah.
QB1.
Ugh. So there's one thing, Thomas, that we can hang our hats on when we go to bed at night. Our quarterback is not Andy Dalton. I'd rather have Cam Newton and I'd rather have Jimmy G than Andy Dalton. Oh, there's some thought there.
Andy Dalton.
I didn't expect this ponderance.
He was serviceable for the Cowboys last year. Didn't play bad.
I mean, okay. They didn't win.
Yeah, it's true.
He was serviceable, but he was. I mean, if you need a guy to just throw 5-yard checkdowns, I'll do it.
I mean, I just don't see where. I agree. Jimmy G better than Andy Dalton, but I don't think Cam Newton right now is any better than Andy Dalton, except he brings a little more. I guess he's a little more toughness, trying to bring the sackable.
Yeah, Cam Newton's a beast. He's 6'5", 250 pounds.
Not afraid to run the ball.
No,
he's a long strider. Takes a little while to get going.
Andy Dalton gets blown over by the wind. I don't know why I'm making fun of Andy Dalton so much. He just, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm the most underwhelmed fan in the NFL right now.
His hair pops though in those Bears colors.
It does. You are absolutely right. Those orange jerseys against his. I mean, it's back to his roots of the orange. Whew, it's getting a little steamy in here. It's getting a little steamy. All right, no more Andy Dalton making fun of, but let's finish up with what the Eagles did in the trades that happened on Friday. They made a trade with the Dolphins. They traded their number 6 overall pick and 5th-round pick to Miami for a number 12 overall pick, a 4th-round pick, and a 2022 first-round pick. So, the first-round pick is good for the Eagles, but going back to what you said at the beginning of the podcast, they have no idea what they're doing. So if you don't have any idea of what you're doing, a first-round pick means nothing because you don't have any strategy. I don't understand why you would move back to 12 if you want a playmaker because you're probably going to get an offensive lineman.
You would think. I mean, they lost Deshaun Jackson. They've been decimated with injuries at the wide receiver position over the last 2.5 seasons.
I mean, Alshon Jeffrey was a major bust for that. Although he did catch a long touchdown in that Super Bowl that they won. So I guess it all makes it worth it in the end there, but Alshon Jeffrey is injured and he's older.
I mean, their number one target has been Zach Ertz for the last few
seasons. And he was injured all last year, and I don't even think he's going to come back, right?
There's reports they're trying to trade him. I know that Chargers have been interested. Buffalo is interested.
He would fit well with the Chargers.
So you almost think now, are they just going to try and reload on offense? I mean, you keep Dallas Goedert, who will now probably slide into Ertz's role.
And he did well.
Do they go after does Kyle Pitts fall to them maybe at 13?
He could out of Florida.
Like that.
Yeah.
Or, there are some wide receivers in this draft that may fall later on, like a Jamar Chase if he goes that far from LSU, because there are some talent.
Right now in the CBS Sports mock draft, they have Waddle going to the Eagles. So I was wrong about the lineman. And they have Mac Jones going to the Patriots, by the way. You like Mac Jones?
I do.
Mac Jones.
He's a Saban guy.
How many quarterbacks have come out of
He did it
Alabama?
Right there. He's been there all 4
Brody
years.
Brody Croyle.
All 4 years.
Yeah, no, I know. And a lot of people are saying that Mac Jones might be the best quarterback in the draft.
Did you see his holding skills in those national championship games?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and everybody's all on the Zach Wilson train as well. Justin Fields, he's a big guy. Anyway, we already talked about that. So the Eagles, I think they need to come up with a strategy if they're going to have a bunch of first-round picks next year.
you just got to feel bad a little bit for Nick Sirianni coming in. I mean, he was a former Chargers quarterback coach here when they were in San Diego, this and that. But when he came in, he was doing all his stuttering on his press conference on the Zoom in front of everybody.
I honestly had to think about who you were talking about for a second.
He's the Eagles' new head coach, and so that's just got to be a tough position for him to come in. And hopefully, Howie Roseman can, turn some switches in there, maybe try and flip the switch. I mean, that team was just won the Super Bowl like less than 5 years ago.
Yeah. Nick Sirianni, he knew what he was getting into when he got that job. I mean, that was one of those things like, hey, do you want to be a head coach? Yes, I do.
Sure.
Do you want to be a head coach, but I have all the control? I'm Jeffrey Lurie. Yes, I do want to be a head coach. Sometimes situation is if a situation's not good. There was one time where I turned down a job that I should have taken. That at the time, people thought I was crazy for, but it wasn't the right situation, and I'm in a much better situation now. Why would I want to go to the Eagles and get fired and then have a firing on my resume so I'm back at the quarterbacks coach of the Chargers?
Yeah, sometimes it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Because it's like you always want to take those opportunities because it shows that you're that type of person. Like, yeah, this is the guy. And yes, you get some experience, but sometimes, like if you're a guy like Matt Patricia and it's like you're terrible,
Yeah,
he
didn't put much on the resume.
Or some of these guys, Dan Quinn as your head coach.
Yeah. At least he went to the playoffs. I don't know. There's so many coaches in the league right now. I'm like, who are you? I don't know.
But at least the Eagles went after somebody new, and they didn't do a rinse, rehire, and repeat kind of thing with somebody.
I will give you that. I am a fan of that. I would like for more new coaches to be hired. If I'm a coach, though, I'm looking for my situation. In Nick Sirianni, who no one has any idea, he's probably going to have to show his credentials going into the stadium every single day. So that is it for this edition of No Pros and Two Joes. Thank you so much for listening. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at 2 Pros and a Joe, at Matt Skraby for me, at Thomas71 for him, at Catch Camarillo for Greg, at Marcus McNeil 73 for Marcus. And I've already mentioned it, I think, at 2 Pros and a Joe. So thank you so much. And make sure you download, subscribe, and you give us a couple stars on iTunes. I appreciate it. Not a couple stars, 5 stars on iTunes.
5 stars.
5 stars. So hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with you in a couple weeks.